Welcome back to another heart-filled and transformational episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, the podcast mogul Phil Better, and today's guests are proof you can have it all: a thriving business and a thriving relationship. For over the last decade and a bit, this dynamic husband and wife duo have been at the forefront of business consulting, helping their clients generate an incredible 77 million online dollars. That's some good money. But behind the scenes, this couple faced their own struggles as pressures of entrepreneurship began to strain their relationship. Instead of giving up, they leaned into it, fought for their marriage, and emerged stronger, both as a couple and as business leaders. Amazing. Through their journey, they've discovered a groundbreaking way to harmonize life and business, creating a blueprint for other entrepreneurial couples to not just survive, but thrive. Today, as the founders of Couplepreneurs, they are on a mission to help power couples scale their business to 7 figures and beyond without sacrificing the love, connection, and joy that brought them together in the first place. Hashtag goals. Get ready to learn from the secrets of building an empire and a legacy with your partner by your side. So please give them a warm welcome. Open your ears for both Kyle and Ariel. Ariel and Kyle, welcome to the show.
Awesome, Phil. Thank you for having us. It's good to be here.
Thank you for having us. And thank you for that warm, amazing, dramatic intro. I'm so pumped up for this now. we should take you around with us everywhere we go.
That would be my dream job. Not gonna lie, just emceeing events by announcing crowds. I always dreamed of. I listened to rap when I was younger and went to rap concerts, and you always had the MC, the guy just hyping up the crowd, the hype man. And so that's how I look at myself on this podcast. I ain't the star. I am just a dude hyping the audience up, ready for the stars who are Kyle and Ariel this episode. So welcome to the show. We're going to jump right into it. What made you guys decide to do, some people would say the crazy, some people would say the foolish, the ill-advised business decision to go as entrepreneurs together as a couple?
You want to take that?
Yeah, I can start. And then Ariel, I would love for you to jump in if you'd like. You know, it really started off when we were younger. Both of us saw our families kind of struggle a little bit when it came to money. And we both actually grew up with entrepreneurs in our family that weren't, for lack of better terms, they were successful enough to provide for us. But what we didn't want for our lives was kind of a repetition of their lives where they would work 12, 13, 14-hour days and still be kind of a slave to the work. And when we were growing up and we had these aspirations of one day using everything that we have and maximizing our potential on earth, we realized very, very quickly that if we're going to get a salary job or a 9-to-5, it's not necessarily going to allow us to have the financial means to fund the lifestyle that we want to live. So I think that's really where it came from, just to be an entrepreneur in general. Now, as far as being an entrepreneur couple, that's a little crazier because like you just said, there are some people that think it's the craziest idea on earth. And to be honest with you, we didn't realize how crazy it was when we were first getting together and talking about this. So even though what we do now is what is a business together, early on in our relationship, we both had separate businesses. And it was one of the things that drew us to each other in our relationship. We actually liked the fact that we had that entrepreneurial drive. So Ariel had a dog grooming salon back in Ohio where we lived, basically surrounded by cornfields, just middle of nowhere, where like the county fair was the national, like the county holiday. Like that's where we grew up. And so she had a successful dog grooming business. I had a successful digital marketing consulting business way before digital marketing consulting was like the fad thing to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like now everyone is, but like I fell into it on accident because I just wanted to know how to learn how to do digital marketing to help my dad's business grow and scale online. So that's what kind of started the whole thing. Now, as we continue to, go down the journey of our relationship and also go down the journey of entrepreneurship, all of a sudden, the two worlds collided in a way that actually created what we call the anti-honeymoon phase. Yeah. So you know how like when most married couples get married, they go through that honeymoon stage? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Everyone's in love. Everything's perfect. No one sees the cracks. And then like then the cracks start happening, and then the regular marriage happens, and then it probably doesn't go into full-blown anti-honeymoon like you're saying. It just comes into the, most couples, they have the regular flow of life, right? I'll deal with this, and he'll have to deal, or she'll have to deal with that of my problem. But this anti-honeymoon, I know more about this.
That's what we experience. And apparently now, after talking to thousands of other entrepreneur couples, a lot of entrepreneur couples feel this anti-honeymoon stage. We just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, because when we first got married, we got home, we both dove back into our businesses, and we spent most of the time in our separate offices. And we went for the first time, we went from feeling like this romantic couple to now feeling like more roommates or just business partners. Mm-hmm. And that's when we started to experience some of those unique tension points that not everybody's experiences, which is, how do you stop thinking about work? How do you stop talking about work when you want to be present with each other as a couple?
Right.
How do you and your partner align on where you're headed and the approach to getting there when it can sometimes look a little different for the two of you? How do you give feedback to each other in a way without feeling like one person is being criticized? And then just how do you keep growing your business without feeling like you have to sacrifice your relationship, your family, your health, and just all the other things that come with a really, really busy schedule? For us, as our busyness went up, that's when our intimacy went down as a couple. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, at the time, our income actually flatlined.
And this is what a lot of entrepreneur couples feel when they go through this complexity of actually doing business together as entrepreneurs. And when you're doing business with the same person that you share a bed with, you start to get this complexity where you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And unfortunately, this was years ago. We didn't have a podcast we could tune into. We didn't have any mentors that understood this dynamic. We couldn't go on a couple's date with another couple and explain this to them, because they just look at us like we have three heads because we're entrepreneurs in the first place. So we're like, what in the world do we do? Where do we turn? And honestly, it was the hardest point of our marriage, because we faced a fork in the road. That fork was, do we sacrifice our business just to keep our marriage good? Or do we sacrifice our marriage just to keep our business good? Both of these options completely suck. Yeah. These are bad options. So what do we do? And I got to tell you, there was one day specifically where everything just kind of shifted for me, where we kind of made a decision to create a third path that did not exist prior to that moment. Yeah. And that third path was a new strategy to actually align each other's strengths, align each other's visions and values, and work together without sacrificing our uniqueness. And anybody listening to this, if you want to model this, one of the questions that changed our life was, how could we as a couple take our individual passions and point them towards a unified purpose? Yeah. And we started creating new strategies just to help our business and our marriage kind of not only survive, but thrive. Yeah. Now, here's what happened. We had no idea what we were doing at the time, but months into this,
as it goes,
we were trying all of the popular things that you hear taught, most of which is kind of garbage, unfortunately, and it didn't work for us. So we had to create our own new systems and structures and ways of doing things. But here's what happened. Months later, we started to notice our intimacy was starting to come back. Like, we actually felt more aligned with each other. We felt like each other's biggest fans again, just like we were earlier on in our relationship. And here's the craziest part. When that started to go up, our income went from completely flatlining to skyrocketing. It was like this invisible barrier was just ripped off of our business. And all of a sudden, our businesses just exploded. And we're like, what is happening? Yeah. And that's when it clicked to us. Most of us in business, we don't have business problems as much as we have just personal problems that show up in the business. Yeah. And when we can take the time to solve those personal problems in our interpersonal relationship, that's when we have the biggest strides in business. So as you do, you know how when you go on dates and, you know how the people that go on dates with their couple, like with their significant other, and if you don't actually post it on social media, it didn't technically happen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So we started doing this where we would go on dates and we would share all the fun, adventures and extravagant things we were doing as two entrepreneurs in one relationship. And people started reaching out to us going like, how in the world do you guys do that? How do you actually manage a business without wanting to kill each other? and we're like, wow, you know what? There might be people out there that could benefit from the same strategies that we created. So we just started a coaching program, launched it in 2022 in the very early on, in early January. And just a couple months into that business was already at 6 figures. It was already just massively growing. And now to this day, years later, we now get to work with entrepreneur couples from literally all over the planet, helping them grow and scale massively profitable businesses without sacrificing the relationship. So I would say that at first it felt very ill-advised, but if you walk through that journey and you have the right guides to walk through that journey with you, it could actually be one of the biggest blessings that we could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, because you have like the person you marry, that's your life partner, right? They're supposed to be with you through thick and thin, good health, bad health, like the whole shebang that usually is read at the altar, right?
Yeah.
And especially in business, like your business partner, like you're expecting if you're going to business with someone, they're going to be supporting you 100%. So you have your like your life partner, right? Like you're bringing both in, you know, like your home life, your business life, you're bringing it together with the ill-advised nation saying it's bad, it doesn't work like that. You guys prove with helping other entrepreneurial couples, plus some of the big names like the Hermosis right now are out there making it, proving that if you have the right partner in life, you can do this.
Yes.
I'm curious for the people listening, and of course me being a bachelor here looking for my life partner eventually, I want to hear it from Ariel. When did you know that Kyle was the smart one to go into, not only to marry him, maybe not the smart one.
I would say she's the smart one.
Yeah, I kind of figured. She's looking over at you. She's like, I'm the boss. But it was a wise decision to go into both business and relationship with, because obviously you can date other entrepreneurs, but making that commitment to be like, okay, we're gonna put our lives together and then we're gonna put our business together. Like, when did you feel that it was right that he was potentially like the smart bet?
Yeah. So I'll be honest, when we well, first of all, I'll speak to the marriage part and then the business part. So the marriage part, when we were together, we were both entrepreneurs at the time. And I remember even like when it came to getting married, I wasn't sure if we should get married just because, I had had, bad relationship experiences in the past. I came from, multiple divorced parents and just all the things. And so when he asked me to marry him, I remember saying like, are you sure?
Yeah. When I proposed to her, it was almost like a negotiation. It was crazy.
And now obviously I was excited about it, but I was like, you better be committed to this because I am the type of person that if I go in, I go all in. And so that was kind of how our marriage was. Now, of course, we got married and it was the best decision I've ever made. But then when it came to the business, we had separate businesses, and to go from being somebody who we were both very driven, both very entrepreneurial, to deciding to go into business together, that was like taking, something that was my baby and I had my own power in, I had my own business, I called the shots, it was my thing, to then combining and having a shared power with him was a really unique dynamic that we had to walk through, which is like, how do we both co-lead this business when we both have strong ideas and we're both very strong-willed? So there were both of those scenarios, I guess, caused us to walk through some interesting things. But specifically when we were going to go into business together, the thing that stuck out to me was looking at all of the experiences that Kyle and I had and knowing that he was very growth-minded. We're both very growth-minded people. He is the type of person that if there's a problem, he's not going to run from it. He's going to ask himself, how can I grow through this? And who can I become on the other side? So that to me was one of the keystone characteristics of somebody that you can go into business with, is somebody who is willing to grow with you through the challenges, not somebody who is going to experience a challenge and essentially run from it. So that was the biggest thing. I'll also say the other thing was just that, for us, we just got along when it came to talking about really big decisions. Like we could talk about anything together. And so of course, it's not to say that we didn't run into challenges, when he wanted to make one decision and I wanted to make another, but I would say it's being very growth oriented. And for us being able to already up until that point, deal with so many amazing challenges and communicate through it. Those were kind of the key characteristics that I looked for.
Plus the hair.
Plus the hair.
Oh yeah, the hair. I'm so jealous of your hair right now, sir. It is magnificent. Whatever product you use, we need to talk off air what the products you use to keep a coif and a mane like that. My God. I'm gonna ask this question to Kyle because I got Ariel answering the real heavy question for the ladies. For men, like I'm pretty sure I know Kyle's. She's pretty and smart. That's why I made the decision to go after her. No, with you being your own boss, having your own digital marketing, coming from a place you wanted to help dad's business grow to being successful. How frustrating was it for you when you were you have this growth mindset and you were bottoming out and you were like not failing at marriage? Because it's not a failure until you end the marriage, right? It's always recoverable. But you were in this downward spiral with your relationship and it was affecting your business. What was going on in your mind, and how did you make the decision that, hey, I need to save both either my business, but I'm going more into my family, my relationship?
Yeah. What a great question. Thank you for asking that.
You're very welcome.
I'll tell you a few things that were going through my mind at the time. It was a time of major confliction.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, because I think we all have in our minds this idea that once we get married, then we're going to get this like emotional release and rush of peace and happiness, or once we hit a certain revenue milestone in business, we're going to feel this amount. And by the time we got married and we were going through the struggle, part of what was going in my mind was looking at my life and going, man, I have everything that like the word would say is a good thing to have. I'm very materially successful. I have an amazing wife with me. Like, why am I still not fulfilled with the things that I have in my life? So one of the things that was going through my mind was just reconciling that success, what it truly means is not necessarily just the accolades that you have or the relationship that you have. It has to mean something else beyond that. It has to. Now, how it specifically came into my relationship was I already had committed my life to being with Ariel. And as she articulated, she wanted to be with someone that is committed for life. And I was committed to life for her. When I asked her to marry me, there was no going back. That was the moment where I was like, she is my one and only, and there is no one else. Once we got into couplepreneurship and we started to realize that, wow, this is like complex and this is hurting our relationship, I felt very stuck because I'm like, well, I don't want to, go away. I don't want to tear apart the relationship that we have, but I also love being an entrepreneur. Yep. And if the business causes strain in my relationship, but I love the business, how do we maintain having both? Yeah. So essentially what it created in my mind was this false dichotomy of having to choose between success in business or success in a relationship. I think that tension between those two poles forced a new solution. Yeah. And it forced a new way that we literally haven't heard anybody else talk about. And I was also confused at the time, if I can be honest, because as the quote unquote man of the house, a lot of the traditional advice that we will hear in certain circles will say, well, as the man of the house, I should be the leader in every regard. And I'm not here to say that philosophy is, wrong or whatever. Everyone has their own beliefs, but how that specifically translates into business is a completely different application than even a religious application. And how it translates into business is I would hear advice from people that said, okay, if we're going to work together, she should be my assistant and I should just run my business and she could just come along work with me. That was the biggest tension point. Yeah, you can see her face, right?
I can already tell by the dynamic that she is not the assistant partner. She is like, I'm the boss. I wear pants in my own business. You wear pants in your own business. It's 50-50, bud.
It's 50-50. Right. And it had to be, because that conversation is what actually led to the breakthrough, because I thought that she would just come to be my assistant. And actually one of the days that literally changed the life of our entire relationship was being in a guest room of our house, like having nowhere else to turn, praying out to God, going like, my gosh, like, what do we do here? I thought I was doing the right thing. Like, what do we do? And I'll never forget, I got out of that prayer essentially, and I got on social media, which is literally probably the last place you want to go when you look for life's greatest solutions in life. Right. But at this time, here's what I saw. I saw Ariel going live on Facebook talking about the things that she was an expert in and helping women all over the world grow and scale businesses from their home, going to 6 figures and beyond using just social media, no paid advertising. And there were comments from women all over the world under her live video that said, Ariel, thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your gifts with me. And I'll never forget just looking at that phone going, wait a second. If I would just make Ariel my assistant, I would literally be depriving the world from the gifts that she has to shine. And I think that was the day that shifted that whole belief, and it just shattered that old paradigm where I'm like, no, Ariel, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. How can we work together without sacrificing our uniqueness in the process? Yeah. And that's when we created that whole new path.
Yep.
I love it. Ooh. Got me chills over here. Because it's true. You may be partner, like when you say you're partners are 50-50. And if you're going into business together, it's 50-50, regardless if it's your wife or not. And you both partners need to decide what their roles are going to be. So yes, some wives maybe decide, hey, I'm better suited as the assistant mode because
sure.
I'm organizational savvy, or like Ariel over here, she's like, I'm a boss babe. F off.
Yeah.
I'm in the front. I'm driving the car, and you can be the passenger princess, Kyle.
I got the hair for it, so it works
Yeah,
out.
you do. Like you got the good hair in there, man. Oh,
The beard
so
throws
gross.
it off just a little bit, though.
Hey, we don't. Princesses can have beards too if they want.
I guess so. Yeah, there you go.
I'm more the passenger prince. But
there we go. It's better.
Yeah, you're the passenger prince in this regard. But I want to know, you guys seem to do a lot to keep your relationship strong, both in business and obviously in the personal side. What is something that you found we're going to talk to the couples here instead of talking individually, because I want to know what you guys do to invest in your relationship to keep it both strong, both in business, but also over in the personal side, because you guys are with each other pretty much 24/7. Most couples have a nice little break of 8 hours where one partner's gone, or both partners are left the house. You guys decide, hey, no, I love you so much, I'm going to spend all my time with you so I can get annoyed by you. But I want to know, what do you guys do to invest in your business relationship, but also in your personal relationship?
So I'm going to let you start, because there's things that we do to invest individually in terms of growing into the type of people and individuals that we want to be, that show up in both the business and the relationship. But then there's also things that we do together as well.
Well, why don't you just... It sounds like you have something in mind.
Well, yeah. So in terms of individually, like Kyle, obviously, like he sees, like a counselor, and has worked with his own individual coaches to help him grow and to develop as the man that he wants to be. And I've done similar things as well. So for us, there's always like, I think a lot of people go into relationships expecting the other person to complete them in some way, shape, or form. And instead, our goal is to be the best individuals that we can be, so we can show up in our relationship as those people versus needing the other person to pour into us or to complete us in some way, shape, or form. So that's one thing that we do individually, is we both have our own, like, individual counselors or coaches at various different points of our life. Of course, from a business and what we do collectively, we oftentimes like to learn from the same types of business mentors, because what we've seen in our relationship and, being couplepreneurs over the years, is when we've had separate mentors from a business perspective, they will oftentimes recommend different paths, different strategies. And so what would happen is we would both have a different idea of what success looked like or which direction we should be going. And we were being fed this information from different people. And that would show up in our relationship, because now we'd have to make business decisions, and we were coming at it from not only different perspectives, but from different people that were pouring into us at that time.
And they could conflict with each other, which would cause stress in the relationship. That's why even with the clients that we work with in our coaching programs, they actually tell us that they love getting Ariel's perspective and my perspective all at once, where both people in the couple relationship are actually listening to the same source. Because then they're aligned. And when couples are aligned on the direction of where they're going and how to get there, that's when they're able to cover 3 times the ground of maybe the average entrepreneur. So I would say that's what Ariel said is spot on, because when I think about like our collective relationship, really the individual work that we've done in ourselves shows up in how we relate to each other in our relationship, where it's not 1/2 + 1/2 = 1. It's really 1 + 1 = 3.
One last thing I'll add is we talked about investing from a, coach, counselor, mentor type of perspective, but there's also, we are committed as a couple to speak the truth with love to each other. So we also invest in growing each other into better individuals. We very much view our relationship as the catalyst for becoming the people that we can be, and therefore becoming the couple that we can be, which we believe not only do you have an individual purpose, but you have a purpose as a couple. And you are going to inspire a different level or a different group of people as a couple than we are as individuals. So we also just commit, I guess, that's the investment, is the commitment to speaking life into each other, but also speaking truth and love in a way to grow each other individually.
We trust each other's perspective to mirror to each other some areas of growth that we can then take and implement. So
for sure.
That's a huge level of trust. And I have to say, but that's what you're getting into a relationship. Like, this is the person, like we've said, your life partner. Like, if you can't trust your life partner, who in life can you trust?
Yeah.
So with doing all that, is there, I want to ask about books because I love questions about books, but I'm trying to connect it and there's no way of connecting it, so I'll just come straight out. As a voracious book reader, I want to know, is there a book that you guys keep coming back to, or books that you guys keep coming back to read, be it either as a couple or separate as individuals, that you just feel that more people need to read to understand?
Kyle is more of the book reader, I will be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak to you there.
Yeah. And well, it depends on what context. So like for me specifically, like if we're going to talk down a personal development context, there's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics that I absolutely love. And that book specifically focuses on our self-image and how we perceive ourselves. And why I like this book so much is because I think like all personal development books today kind of stem out of that root, which is basically the philosophy that every single person acts within their understanding of who they are, the self-image they hold in their own mind. So I would say that that's a really great book from a personal development standpoint. And then of course there's other books that I've read that have been really, really instrumental. For me, my personal faith journey, like I do read the Bible and I do my best to walk in accordance to the way that I believe I should treat my wife and to love her like Jesus loves the church, so like I do really, really use that as the foundation. And then there's, in marketing books, there's the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. And a lot of times when people are, a lot of the people that we coach, even on a marketing strategy standpoint or a copywriting standpoint, they'll come to us and they're like, teach me how to write like you. Teach me how to communicate like you. How do you do it? And I'm like, if you want to know just like the secret, read Influence by Robert Cialdini. Because if you understand the principles, you can write around the principles as long as the principles are being hit. And you could design a marketing presentation based on those influence principles, and that will allow you to sell more in your business. So those are the few that came to mind for me.
I love it because you're the second entrepreneur that said Psycho-Cybernetics on the podcast, and I'm like, okay, that's moving to the top of the list. I keep a list right beside me as I write down, and if I see the more the tally, they go up. But Robert Cialdini's book, I read it when I was much younger. It is a fantastic book to understand marketing. I think it ruined me when I was younger to look at marketing now, because I'm looking at like, oh, that's just shit marketing. I'm not gonna buy from them. And it's like, oh no, but that's a good product.
Well, dude, you know what? It's funny you say that. Ariel and I are usually not like the most fun people to bring to a party, because over a decade in the marketing world, where we have helped grow businesses by tens of millions of dollars, like legitimately behind the scenes. I've had the opportunity to work with companies that were on Shark Tank. I've had the opportunity to work with companies that work with political figures at the very, very top of the food chain. And like, once you get to that point, you're like, nothing's real. Like literally everything's just marketing and propaganda. And it really does not make us fun.
We're a little cynical.
We're very cynical.
I feel you there. Once you start learning about marketing, everything just feels fake. And you're like, oh my God.
It is. But I think it challenges us to ask ourselves, like, what is real in this world, and try to live for that. Yeah.
I love it. And same with entrepreneur. You learn that everybody's just making up as they go along because no one knows what they're doing.
Right.
You go into entrepreneur and you're like, everybody's like, I had no idea what I was doing. And then, surprise, fame and fortune followed a suit. I want to know, where do you guys see yourselves in 10 years? You guys, like you said, you've been in the game over a decade now. You're closing in on 2 decades now combined. Where do you guys see yourself in 10 years? Where do you want to see yourselves in 10 years?
Yeah. So we both have individual pursuits that we do want to pursue outside of couplepreneurs. Like, so we love what we do. Couplepreneurs is kind of the amalgamation of all the things that we've done over the years. So we see couplepreneurs continuing to be a company that's not based on us, that's more based on just the collective of like what works for other entrepreneurial couples to grow and scale businesses in a way that keeps their relationships still at the forefront. So having that, but also having other people like within that collective that are able to speak into the lives of other entrepreneurs. entrepreneur couples. So that's kind of where we see couplepreneurs being. And then from there, we have individual things as well. Like I love business. I love the challenge of growing businesses. So we both see ourselves, I think, continuing to grow and scale other businesses, investing into businesses, et cetera. And also from a little bit more of a passion side. I came from marine biology. I used to be a marine biologist. I used to study wild dolphins off the coast of the Bahamas. And so I've always, I know, right? Ariel, the mermaid, I kind of lived into
it. Your parents set you up right with the name there.
Exactly. And actually, being able to work at a nonprofit in marine biology was where I got my start in marketing, because it's where I got to see an organization that had an amazing message that couldn't get it in front of the right people. So that's a lot of what drew me down entrepreneurship and marketing as well, in addition to just experiencing it from our families at a young age. But anyway, so there's also wanting to fund a marine conservation organization. And again, speaking back to what Kyle said earlier, we knew that a traditional job was not going to lead us to the dreams that we wanted. We needed to have more control over the income that we were able to generate, and therefore be able to pour into and give into the different areas and charities that we cared about. So that's one that's very big for me, is being able to fund a marine conservation organization.
Yeah, I would just to add on to what Ariel said, from my perspective, my personal passion is playing music. So, for those of you that are watching the video version of this, you can see a drum set behind us. That's not just some random decoration. It would be very weird if that's what I was trying to decorate our house with. It's a real drum set, because since I was young, I was playing drums. When I was 19 years old, I toured the country in a rock band. And once you get a taste of that, it's hard to get it out of you. So where I see myself in 10 years is we have couplepreneurs running the way that Ariel just spoke about. Yep. And I have the ability to take the funds from entrepreneurship and go into other industries that are usually really hard to make it in when you don't have a lot of money. But having no need to strike a bad deal with a record label sets me free to be able to pursue the passion that I have to create music that isn't just for the sake of me creating music, but actually makes a positive difference in the lives of others. When I was a kid and just going through those teenage angsty years, music got me through a lot of hard times. And because I've been a musician as long as I have, and have the connections that I have, creating music to help other young kids go through hard times, that's something that's really near and dear to me. So that's where we see ourselves.
Oh, I can't wait for those goals to happen so that you can come back and tell us all about it. And I want to hear more about the marine conservation. I love sloths.
Nice.
I have a sloth door guy to keep my door open, right? So I want to create a sloth little communities to conservation, save the sloths. That's all I want to do. We are coming to the end of this episode, which I hate, because you guys are friggin' fun, and I'm definitely going to come and hang out with you guys.
Right back at you.
Right, good. But I want to know, I have 10-year-old Kyle, 10-year-old Ariel right beside me. What's a piece of advice, life, business, relationship, any type of advice you would love to give back to your younger self?
I have mine.
Okay, if you want to go first. Ladies first.
You don't get what you don't ask for.
So good.
That's been a big one for me, I think, over the years. And I think it finally solidified about a year or so ago when I recognized that so many decisions and so many things that have happened up to this point in my life only happened because I had the courage to ask for them. Even things that I oftentimes felt unqualified for. And I'm very, very blessed that Kyle's actually been able to inspire me in that way, where there were some things that I didn't feel I was qualified for, specifically even the marine biology aspect. I wasn't qualified for it. I was supposed to have a PhD. I was supposed to have all of these different qualifications that I did not have. But there was a job opening at an organization that I had my foot in the door in. And I remember Kyle saying, why can't you do it? And I'm like, well, I'm not qualified. And he's like, well, just try. And so I gave it a shot. And sure enough, I got to have my dream job by, I think, the age of 24. And so just asking and them agreeing to it was huge. And then going on through my entrepreneurship journey is also there's been so many things that people would have said that we couldn't do, that I would have told myself when I was 10 years old, there's no way that would happen. But we've just asked for it. And not all of it happens. But if you don't ask for it, you have no shot of it actually happening. We've been very blessed to have, we have a Couplepreneurs live event annually, and we've had speakers that have spoke on our stage that, quite honestly, we shouldn't have been able to get on our stage. but we ask.
Shh, don't give away the secrets.
So yeah, I would say just in the last year or so, that's really started to solidify that I wouldn't be where I am today without just the courage to ask for things.
I love that so much.
Oh, that's a great one, Kyle.
Mine's not going to be as good. Well, we'll see. It's actually tied, but in a different frame. Yeah. All right. The advice that I would give to my 10-year-old self and any 10-year-old, and quite honestly, anybody listening to this, is don't let other people's limitations become yours. Mm. That's what I would say.
I like
That's what I would say. Because if you, depending on who you talk to, if you share your entrepreneurial or just any dreams that you have, other people who might not see the same vision because they're not you, it's okay. It's nothing wrong with them. But what they're going to do is they're going to start to project their own fears and own limitations onto you, and maybe discourage you from pursuing the things that you have on your heart to pursue. And what happens is if you take those limitations onto your own, you can actually live your life feeling like a lion stuck in a cage. And that cage is just limitations and fears that are fed to you by other people. Yeah. But when you recognize that in this world that we live in, especially where we live in America, we're very, very blessed to have the freedom that we have and to do the things that we do in entrepreneurship and everything like that. There's really no actual limitation to how much we can do and achieve. Yeah. And we're so blessed in this day in history to say that. So to live in this day in history where there literally is no real limitation to what we can do and what we can achieve and what we can accomplish, don't ever let somebody else's limitations become yours.
You were worried that it wasn't going to be as good. Sir, you do yourself a disservice. It was as good, equal to Ariel's, both speaking to two different ways. Because if you don't have limitations, you have the courage to ask. If you don't you have the courage to ask, you don't have limitations. So it's great. You guys are amazing. I'm going to jump off stage. I'm going to download that stuff into my brain a bit more and rectify how I can, ask more, and not worry about the limitations. Let my audience know where they can connect with you. You guys have a podcast, tell them where they can listen, all that fun stuff. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I would say there's 3 main places that you can connect with us. The first is our Couplepreneurs Instagram. So if you go to @Couplepreneurs, you'll find us on Instagram. Just send us a message and let us know that you found us on Phil's podcast here. So that's the first place. The second place is our Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group that is, to our knowledge, the largest Facebook community of other entrepreneur couples. We have over, at this point, about 5,600 people in there right now.
Didn't even know there were that many. Didn't know there were that many couplepreneurs in the world. But if you're listening to this and you and your significant other are both in business together, it's really helpful to get around over 5,000 others who are going through similar challenges as you.
That's right. So if you just go to the search bar of Facebook and type successful couples in business, our Facebook group should pop up right at the top. And then the last place is we do have a podcast. As he said, we have a podcast called The Couplepreneur Show, where we talk about this kind of stuff all the time in terms of how to navigate what it's like to grow businesses as a couple while also navigating that unique relationship dynamic and keeping the romance alive.
Yeah, we share things from our own perspective of over a decade of couplepreneurship. And we also have some really cool guests on there because our whole mission with that podcast is to reverse engineer the success of today's most influential power couples in business. So if you want to take the elevator versus the stairs to your success as a couple in business, we created each podcast episode to be very tactical and full of strategies that you can implement immediately. So check that out. I think you'll be happy with it.
I love it. I'm definitely going to, even though I'm not a couplepreneur or in a couplepreneur, I think having that at least in the back pocket, be able to take it to the next level. I'm going to go ahead and listen to you guys. I always hold off before listening to episodes of a guest podcast because I don't want any idea about the guest because I just want to learn about them from my audience's point of view. Some people say, no, you need to do a whole bunch of research. I'm like, I don't like research because I think it takes away from the interesting questions that can pop up from when you're hearing their story and where it goes. But guys, I want to thank you so much. You guys were amazing. I had such a great time talking both to you, Kyle, and of course you, Ariel. You guys were fantastic.
Yeah, same to you, Phil. Thank you for asking such amazing questions.
Yeah, you challenged us in a really good way to ask us the deep questions that sometimes people are afraid to. So I'm so excited for anyone who's listening to this to take something, even if it's just one thing that we talked about, and implement it in their lives. Because if we could just change one life with this conversation today, it was 100% worth it. And we're excited to hear the results from it.
I'm just going to end the episode there. I'm not even going to talk more. No, Kyle, you're exactly right. That's the goal of the podcast, to change one person's life or a couple a person's life. I want to thank you guys for listening. To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below to connect with Kyle and Ariel, listen to their Couplepreneur podcast, and of course, maybe join their group if you need to. I thank you again for listening. Thank you guys for being amazing guests. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.